The Left Wing's coverage of the Carlow Football Championships is brought to you in association with Talbot Fitness Carlow, Connolly's Top Line Bidnestown, Scott's Bouncing Castles, J&J Services Tullow, Seamus Byrne Electrical, your number one for pitch floodlighting installation, Milano's Takeaway Bidnestown, PFT Travel, the Arboretum Garden Centre, Ray Whelan Limited, Art Spas and Carlow Electrical Services. Yes, hello and welcome along. It is football season once more in the Carlow Championships. The hurling is done and dusted, and an interesting final we had too, an interesting set of finals the week before last, but there is no rest for the wicked. We are straight back into the action in terms of the big ball code. And the big ball code is always a little bit trickier to cover from the left wing back's point of view. Obviously, there's a lot more teams that have first teams in the first three grades in particular, and all are as important as the rest. So trying to get around to everything is not always easy, but we will do our best to bring you top-class coverage as always throughout the Carlow Football Championships. So we're going to start off here on a light note. We have Tinryland Senior Football Manager Steve O'Meara with us. Steve, you're very welcome on the show. How's things, boss?
Not so bad, Kevin. How are you keeping?
Sure, look, we're grand. I suppose we better address the elephant in the room straight away because, interestingly enough, the first episode of the hurling show we did had a bit of talk about football. Tinryland involved, of course, Eire Og involved, a league final. A lot of talk going around over the past couple of months, still a lot of talk going around. So you've gone in touch, Steve, you want to come on and basically kind of put things right, and we're grateful to have you on. You're going to have a chat with us about the championships, of course, as well. But where do we start with this? Where are you at with this at the minute, and how is it going on so long?
I suppose, look, the key point as well, as we said in the dressing room on Tuesday, it's over now till at least after championship. That's where the focus is now. And look, probably key to the whole point for me is personally, like, I'm not that pushed on leagues. I grew up at the risk of sounding arrogant. I grew up in a club that were winning senior championships in Dublin and got to a Leinster final in '96. We didn't kind of regard leagues, and I suppose the whole thing for me was never about winning a league. But it's over for now. I suppose, look, to go back, our hope would still be that the league final will be played after the championship. Obviously, look, a lot of the good maybe got out of it then. But look, in Dublin, when I grew up playing, the league final was always after the championship final anyway. So maybe it's just a case of recalibrating the brain. And there's no guarantee as things stand. The league has been awarded to Eire Og, but that's pending an appeal from our end. So that's where it is at the moment, I suppose, in terms of where it's started and come from. I suppose that's a bigger story, most of which I won't get into because there are cases pending and I can't, which possibly alludes to maybe a slightly one-sided version with a few possible mistruths in there that have floated around the county for the last couple of months.
Okay, well, look, there's obviously a lot in that, and I could ask 2 or 3 follow-up questions in this particular moment, but I'll probably get to ask them all anyway. But I mean, you mentioned about the league not having a particular, not just saying it doesn't have a particular importance, but a secondary importance is probably the best way of putting it, because championship will always be number one. So why then, I suppose, has this become such a thing? Is it a matter of principle, or where, what is behind it? Like,
look, it's a matter of two things, really. I suppose the simple case, the facts of the case, and as I say, there's a peculiar legality here, and I don't want to get into legal territory. I've been told I shouldn't. Not until all the cases are done. But the case at hand, and I suppose probably worth pointing out, like one of the boys was in Graig a couple of weeks ago, and one of the Graig lads, says, I heard Tinryland don't want to play the league, and they got a solicitor to get the league final not played. And that seems to be the perception that's gone around. Obviously, Tinryland have engaged a solicitor, Conor Sally from County Tyrone. And with that, we're in a position that we can't really say much and haven't said a thing in 12 weeks. So definitely there's not two sides of the story. What happened, Kevin, just to clear up probably one false rumour that has gone around the county, it was, and this is the case of the DRA case, which is pending, whether it constitutes a legal fixture or not. It was on the Carlow GA Twitter page. It was 8 points. I don't want to call them rules because that's to be adjudicated on. But there was 8 points put on the Twitter page in Carlow, and point 3 and 4 were something along the line. I don't have them in front of me. Finally played June Bank Holiday weekend. Fixtures can't, second point four, fixtures can't be changed without the consent of both teams. We never consented to putting the final back after the June Bank Holiday weekend, which was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We were aware that there was an Eire Og wedding on the Sunday, and it was a key point that probably has been misunderstood or maybe misconstrued. We offered Eire Og to play the Thursday. I practically begged Turlock O'Brien to play the Thursday, and I did send him a message. I don't want to get to what Turlock said to me. It wouldn't be right. I'll only tell you what I sent. But again, this is evidence. There's fact. Like, I have the message on my phone that I've sent. I did say I thought we were being very generous offering the Thursday. According to what we saw at the time as rules and regulations, we didn't have to. We did. We also offered a Tuesday after. Wouldn't have been my choice because the leaving cert was starting on the Wednesday. We 2 boys involved, but the club did offer the Tuesday. I offered a Thursday on the Monday, and it wasn't accepted. And then the heel of the Hunters got refixed for the Wednesday. And I did point out in my second test message back to Turlock O'Brien that I foresaw massive difficulty playing this final. Potentially massive difficulty if it wasn't played the June Bank Holiday weekend, because we had planned for 12 weeks around the dates we were given, and the issue was it was refixed for the Wednesday, and we had 5 lads that had played the league were going to be missing on the Wednesday. 2 were starting leaving cert, 2 were flying to Thailand, and 1 was flying to Italy. We'd also told the entire panel to take those 10 days off. We had said if we get to the league final, great. If we don't, we'll get a friendly that weekend. But either way, we're taking the following 10 days off. 2 of those boys got to Thailand. We're gone for all of June. And I suppose the key moral principle for me, certainly, and I think it was supported by the club and certainly by the players, and it's something I'll maybe come back to after to just explain the key factual point without getting into the legalities and whatnot. For me personally, and it was a view that was supported 100% by the players and by a vote at executive level, was we did make an inquiry by phone to a member of the Eire Og executive that week, and we were just told, well, we're missing 2 players on the Thursday, so we can't play. And for us, there was a moral principle going forward then. We weren't agreeing to a fixture in advance of a date. We knew we were missing players who had played the league. And I want to stay play the league. League wouldn't matter hugely to me, but there's guys there probably won't make a championship starting team. It's probably the biggest game they'd ever play. And for us, there was 17 players consistently played the league, and they would have been the 14 outfielders who started, and the first 3 subs came on. And, you know, the idea for us to having offered, I mean, it was 6 days of that weekend were offered. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday were the actual dates. Thursday and Tuesday were after. There were 6 days, and, you know, it was cancelled on the basis of a wedding. We're told that was the email we're told went in. For me, certainly, and it was supported by, I suppose, all and sundry in Tinryland, there was a moral principle that we would then agree to fix the final on a date we knew we'd be missing players in advance. And with John Murphy playing hurling for Nave Breed, there was a massive up in the air element until, I suppose, a few hurling games played.
Okay, a lot to chew on and to digest, I suppose. I don't know where to go into this next, but like you mentioned, say the 17 players, and the article obviously went out in the Nationalist, had a statement which mentioned the 17 players then as well, and it probably lends itself into the question about holidays, which has obviously become a topic. And I know you were listening into our podcast, whenever we put that out at the start of the hurling championship, and I suppose. What is your view? What was your set out in terms of a plan? So you look at the whole picture for the year, and you say, right, well, there are certain blocks. Do you say to your players, guys, you need to take holidays on those dates, or do you say, lads, will you take holidays? Lads, if you don't take holidays, then you're in serious trouble getting your place. And is that basically it? Just I'll give you the floor here now to put this out here.
And look, I think that was maybe slightly misconstrued on your show before at the start of the hurling championship. I think sort of Joe, and by all accounts, there's great regard from in town and the school he teaches. So I don't want to go too hard on him, but he sort of went off and sort of there was a cloud floating out there, and he sort of followed a tangent and sort of I think insinuated a few things that were just pulled out of the sky. I don't tell anybody what they can or can't do. To give a foundation for that, we'll meet in November, December every year, and we'll go through common parameters that we want to do, and that's where it goes. And it's generally unanimous, player led, and whatnot. I don't like lads go on holidays all the time, but there is a pragmatics that it doesn't make sense for lads to take random holidays throughout the summer. But it does happen to an extent. But once we get the league fixtures, yes, we will say, as far as you can you take holidays this week? That we know those 10 days, as much as is like for school teachers that could take the holidays, the 1st of July or the 10th of July, as much as you can. That's what we do. And as it happened this year, only 4 lads actually took holidays on the stated dates, myself included. But we had, when the league fixtures came out, we said we would take a week. Well, not going on, do what you want, but we had said we would take that week and until the Thursday or Friday the following week off. We'd also set out, I think it was July the 9th to July the 16th, as we said, if you can take holidays that week, or July the 6th, I think, July 6th to July 16th, if you can take holidays in there, take them. But obviously, like, that's not when everybody does take their holidays. But I would have been aware of 2 players since January going to Thailand in June, and we did say, well, look, do what you want, but if you can tie it in with, after the league, it would make sense to be 12 weeks there. If you go away for 4 weeks, then it's the best time to take them. But there's certainly no element to me telling lads what they have to do or where they have to go. And like, even sometimes lads will be telling me I'm coming back from a wedding for training, and I'd be like, would you ever stop? Would you stay and go to your wedding and enjoy yourself? We'll see you Sunday. If you're fit on Sunday, do you know what I mean? So look, that's it. We try and put them in. Now we do have fairly rigid, and again, it's player led. We do have fairly rigid parameters on the weeks coming to the championship. 100%. Now I say that still 1 or 2 lads have been away, but broadly speaking, we do expect that if you're not injured, that certainly the fortnight out from championship, unless there's absolutely no way around it. But that not to take holidays. But the point I want to make is this was never the misperception I think out there was that this was Stephen O'Meara, and it is one thing I want to address. Stephen O'Meara flying solo is a term I've heard thrown around the county, and nothing could be further from the truth. And there was kind of a perception, I think, of a dictatorial fella that told the players they couldn't play the final because I didn't have all my players. It's completely the opposite. It's like, that's a tight group, and anyone who's around that group knows it's a tight group. Like, they're all good boys. They're, and I'd go to the trenches with those boys and for those boys. And for me, I would have felt I was selling those lads out if we had agreed to play on that Wednesday with 5 lads, 2 doing the leaving cert, 3 gone on planes. I would have felt, and I would have felt I was selling them out. I asked 5 senior players, they all said no way. 5 senior players and 1 younger player, they all said no way. It was voted on. Anything significant was voted on by the executive. I'll have you know. So there's all that. But one thing we did do when a fixture came back on June 25th, I don't want to get into that because there's interpretation I don't want to get into. And I, as I say, and as I say to people, like, I could up sticks and leave Carlo tomorrow, and I don't have to deal with any of the aftermath. I would have very high ethical standards that I don't come in, light a fire, and then bail. I would always ask the question: what does this leave? Am I creating problems in the long term for Tinryland, for Carlo? It is a question I would ask myself. So this wasn't a case of me leading anything. I'm the football manager. Sorry, lead, yes, but flying solo, absolutely not. And there was a story going around Carlo that I had been contacting the county board myself, and I just want to say categorically here and now, the only member of the CCC I've ever had any contact with, phone or email, was Sean Campion when I was appointed Carlo football coach in late 2019. And if there's a record of any contact I've made with anybody since that, they're absolutely welcome to publish it, because I can assure you it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's a meaty way to start this football championship coverage. I have to I have to be honest with you. Like,
They want the championship.
I'm glad, and I will in a second, but there's a few more bits and pieces I want to ask you. Like, I mean, I think it's interesting. You know, you said you took your holidays yourself in that period, because if you all of a sudden choose to take holidays different to the players, then what does that create? I mean, it was something I was going to ask. When did you take yours, and would you have been fearful of a double standards approach? Whether where you're there, I suppose, saying, right, this is when you're going, next thing you're not. But sure, like, all that's obviously a thought process.
No, listen, again, I do, and I don't, this isn't a slight, but if I had a fixture list if we had a championship fixture list, a league fixture list, and everything in January, like, I'd have a timetable for the entire year, but we don't. But we do it as far out as we possibly can. But, like, there's no double standard. The first thing is, like, I'll take 1 week's holidays, and I won't miss a single training session apart from that, unless there's an illness or an emergency. And even I took my holidays this year, because there were so few lads, took that week off. We ended up playing a friendly, and I actually took my holidays in a campsite in Oldcastle. We were playing Kells that week, so I actually only missed one training session through the whole thing. But no, there's yeah, look, from my point of view, I don't miss training. I don't miss matches. I'll take that week's holiday. This year, it was one day I missed, because I did take holidays 20 minutes from where we were playing a friendly in Meath. I'm on holidays now. I'm camped out in the Nor Valley in Kilkenny. I'm shooting here from Kells in Kilkenny, or you're shooting. Look, these are professional players. These are amateurs. They're here to enjoy it. Something Gary Boyle, who would have brought me into Donegal, always asks us, he said, what's your why? Why are you doing this? And as I always say, you're in a dressing room. You maybe think that everybody's there for the same reason as you. And I realised fairly young, playing senior football, hurling, that some lads are there because it's a hobby. Some lads are there because they've got an inner drive to win senior championships. Some lads are there because they wouldn't know what to do if they weren't there. We're all there for different reasons. We're amateurs. And I had this conversation with a guy last year that probably wasn't towing the line, and I made the point that says, senior football is a life choice. Says, like, Ballybowden, Kilmacud, Crokes, clubs like that in Dublin, their intermediate teams are full of senior standard footballers who don't want that lifestyle. Mm-hmm. They don't want 3 nights on the field, 3 nights in the gym at certain times of the year, can't go out on Fridays, wives, girlfriends, no Fridays, no Saturdays, all that. It's a lifestyle. I mean, people from outside Ireland don't really get it, and maybe we're the bad ones. But there are certain, if you want to be serious and you want to compete, there are certain, parameters. The more I can organise things that maximise the efficiency, the better. But these are amateurs. We, as Brendan Hennessy and Casey Lawler always has a good laugh about, like, we go back to Tinryland, win or lose, and have points after championship matches. We organise social events. Like, you've got to enjoy it. But ultimately, we don't want to go out and get tankings against teams that are doing things to a certain level. So we do things as reasonably professionally as we can within the context. It's an amateur game, and holidays. Some lads can organise holidays around it. Some lads can't. The more we can streamline it, but it's a choice. It's a choice, and there's no. And even one of the boys, and listen, we played Kyle and Aaron last Tuesday. There was 26 lads, and, like, any one of them genuinely could start a championship or come on in championship, and you're kind of you're sitting there thinking. And one of the boys had a wedding on the Friday, or the previous week we played, was it Castletown? We played on the Friday, and he said, no, I want to come back and play that game, Steve. I says, listen to me. Go to your wedding. No. I know what you're saying to me. I know you're afraid someone's going to come in, take your position, and you're going to be out in the championship team. We have a game next Tuesday. You would have only been playing 40 minutes. You're playing 60 minutes next Tuesday. Then when you go to your wedding and enjoy yourselves. Do you know what I mean? So look, but lads as well. Lads aren't stupid as well. Like, there's the laws of economics. You could get a head cold, miss a game. Some guy comes in, takes your position, and you're gone. And lads know that as well. That's not anyone's outlook. That's just the way the world works. Happened to me one year, senior hurling, got cold, missed a week. Young lad came in. I didn't get me sitting on the bench for the year. That's life.
Yeah. Last question on this then. So the 17 guys, how do they feel? How hard is it to keep them on board then, knowing that they're probably only going to play the league? And when you put this sort of system in place, their player will say, I don't know, player 22, 3, 4, and 5, that I know you said 26 and there's a possibility of them playing, but by and large, there's a few that most likely are going to see little time. How do you keep them on board, get them to take the same leave while seeing a common purpose. Like,
I think, to be honest with you, it's the biggest challenge. Now, say 17, just the way things ran, like we have a panel at 30, which is down to 27 with injuries now, with lads who won't be available for championship. But between one thing and another, the lads missed elements of the league or weren't back till May or June and whatnot. But I think it's the biggest challenge in club management is how do you keep, more than 21, 22 lads interested. And to be honest with you, I'm probably fortunate in that regard that, look, and maybe the other managers would say differently. I'd have a good sense of maybe what a first 15 in Radvilli is going to be, what a first 15 in Pal is going to be, or fairly close anyway. Eire Og maybe a bit more, Rangers, hard to see how they would change too much from what they had last year. We literally, I don't know who's playing next week, and that's the truth. That probably sounds like, yeah, Steve's doing the diplomatic angle for the players, but the players know it. There's literally nothing between 3 or 4 positions. So I think in our case, maybe a better question to ask me next Monday when 7 lads are sat on the bench for the game against Rangers. It is the biggest thing. But look, we've given loads of games. We've got loads of games, good games, played good teams in Dublin, good teams in Meath, Castletown, Kyle Nairn and Wexford. We've played really good friendly. We've got loads. I would prefer 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off football hurling more as a player centre thing, that you get a niggle and you don't miss 3 games because they're in the space of 15 days. But I don't mind the 12 weeks off because we get to play loads of games and we get to play everybody. So there's no shortage of football for these boys. The lads are all playing. Like, there's weeks we played 2 games. Nearly put out 2 different teams on a Tuesday and a Friday, or played some lads for 45 minutes. So look, for us, because we probably have there's so little probably between. I suppose every team has their top maybe 3 or 4 players, but there's so little between maybe number 7 to number 27. They've all got game time. Obviously, look, come championship, maybe it's a tougher job. Maybe when 1 or 2 lads haven't played, if they haven't played any of the first 2 games. But look, at that stage, you just hope. As I say, it's not professional. It's not. They're not playing for their country. You hope that there's enough whatever, whether it's loyalty to the club or just loyalty, an attitude. Well, I'm in for the year. I'm not going to throw the toys out with a pram. I mean, I'd be the first to say if I was on a senior football setup doing the training and I wasn't getting game time, I probably wouldn't stay involved for more than a year or 2. It's just too much to give. So I'd have huge regard for lads that do. But yeah, I suppose the way it's gone for us, I don't think lads know who is going to be playing ball next week yet. And they won't know until probably Thursday, Friday night. So in that regard, it keeps it easier for me. But it is the biggest challenge in club football and hurling management. There's no 2 ways about it, Kevin.
Yeah. I have to ask you about your relationship with Thurlow, Steve. I mean, Thurlow was involved, obviously, in bringing you into the setup with the county. Am I right in saying that? He would have had a say.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So now you've got this going on. There's obviously going to be animosity. Are you disappointed, or would you have a bit of would you have like a kind of an understanding from his point of view in relation to that weekend, with the intricacies of how close the situation was to his heart off the field as well? And do you feel the relationship maybe has changed now as a result of that? And if so, like, what way do you feel about it?
Look, I wasn't expecting you to ask me that. I don't mind
asking. Happen on this show.
I don't mind asking, Kevin. I told you, ask me what you want. I said that. That's my feeling on democracy and whatnot. Ask what you want. I don't really want to get into it. Myself and Turlow, we would have been good enough friends, not best friends, but like I'd have huge loyalty to Turlow, in the sense that I was a bit of a wild card to be pulled in as an intercounty coach. I'd have a huge loyalty to, and then obviously you have that in the CV. You're kind of up the ladder very quickly. Like, I hadn't done a huge amount, and Turlow brought me in, and I'd always say, Turlow messaged me as a journalist in 2017 to compliment me on how well I understood what they had been trying to do against Dublin. So look, Turlow's died in the wool. Eire Og. I felt maybe the line was crossed a little bit and we weren't backing down. Even when Turlow heard I got the Tinryland job, first one to, when rumours were around, it wasn't even announced, to hear you're coming back to, we're going to keep you in Carlo GA, great. So look, Turlow's Eire Og to the car. I suppose at this stage, even beyond being a dub on the outside, I'm Tinryland to the car. I would hope I would hope. I haven't spoken to Turlow. I mean, I did ring him. I did a few texts over and back. I did ring him at the start of all. He didn't ring me back. Texted, emailed. So I don't know. Listen, I'd have huge loyalty to Turlow in that regard. Hopefully, look, if we end up, hopefully we do play. It means we get out of a group or maybe to the semi-finals. So hopefully we do play. And look, hopefully we can put it all behind us and, maybe even for a league final in October,
Yeah. Because obviously, look, everyone involved in this from a manager point of view, I'd know reasonably well. I'd like to feel like I'd like to say and think that and feel that I do. Like I know you quite well. Turlow and Tommy have both been guests on this podcast several times before. And then they went off and got back involved in management and left me high and dry. But the boys do not want to mess when I say that. But like I will give them the right reply to some of the stuff maybe that you said as well, because that's just the way
absolutely. And listen,
this whole thing works. And I'd hate to see, like, at the end of the day, it is a game of football, and sure, you'd hate to see anyone falling out over freaking football when there's so much other shit going on in life too,
Yeah, no, look, it is only football, and look, there probably was, as I say, and it's absolutely not Turlow. There was, I have heard a common name has attached to Stephen O'Meara flew solo, which is disappointing. And I suppose from my end, it's not somebody I know. It's just a name that has come back. I suppose three different people from three different clubs in three different parts of the county have all said back to me, Joe Blogs said Stephen O'Meara did A, B, and C, and it's completely untrue. It'd be hard not to have an animosity towards that. I did seek legal advice on it. I'll tell you that straight up. Won't go any further than that. But none of that came from Turlow. So look, you'd hope. As I say, look, we're once the first ball is thrown in championship, this will probably be forgotten. I suppose probably why I was keen to talk to you today, because it will be forgotten. And as I say, there are a lot of misperceptions out there that I think aren't true. As I say, I was particularly disappointed by the fact that it becomes so, it spread. The rumors about me personally had spread like wildfire. Now, I will tell you straight up, the solicitor did say to me, look, defamation on that. It'd be hard to judge that your character has been lessened by it. I would feel it has been, but trying to prove that in a court of law would be another thing. I am personally really disappointed by that. But as I say, that's an individual I've never met. I had to Google him to see what he looked like. Ran into him in town since, funnily, and he looked the other way. But yeah, listen, that's an individual I don't know. I don't care about him. I would like that if people hear that from him again, they would pull him up on it and ask him to produce the evidence or say which individual I'm supposed to have contacted. Because that's disappointing, definitely disappointing. But listen, outside of that, we play championship, but it's high, listen, if us and Eire Og end up with a championship quarter final or semi final, or say it would be great if we were in a final. This will all be forgotten.
Yeah, we'll all have the popcorn. Anyway, you mentioned championship. I promised you about 15 minutes ago I'd talk about it, and sure, it is starting this week, so we better talk about it a little bit.
Yes.
What do you make of the narrative that Tinryland have a handy group?
Look at it from a mathematical point of view. The bookies have three standout favourites, and we're not in the group with any of them. That's looking at it purely mathematically. A point I will make, and I'll bore the life out of you now for a minute. I'm not a fan of three going through it of a group. I said it since day one. As a manager my first year, I was a big fan of it because it gave me a bit of I'd probably have got the P45 with Eire Og and Pal in the same group, and we lost the first game to Pal. I was a big fan of it that year. It's great for management longevity because you can go third and get knocked out of a quarter final, which is the same as getting knocked out of a first round group in Dublin. But on the whole, I'd be a fan of two going through. Big debate and the national All Irelands this year. The mathematical principle of three going through is your best four teams, according to results. I mean, Eire Og weren't in the semi last year, but I don't think anyone would say they're not one of the best four teams. According to results, the best four teams get into the semi-final because you have two seeded finalists. Then three go through, so it doesn't actually matter if there's a soft side. You're only flipping because if you don't top our group now, whoever comes second and third, are playing second and third from a group with Eire Og, Rathvilly, Pal, O'Loughlin. Obviously, the O'Loughlin will be considered underdogs in all of those 3 games. So, like, if we go out on Sunday and lose to Rangers, the likelihood is we're playing Eire Og, Pal, or Rathvilly in a quarters if we get through. If we had got the Pal group with Eire Og and Rathvilly, okay, much harder to top it, but you're ended up playing one of the teams you're in the group in the quarter. So mathematically, it actually doesn't matter. I was reasonably disinterested in the group or in the draw. Everybody else very excited about it. If there's 2 teams going through, you'd be very interested in the draw. Doesn't actually matter. It just flips it upside down what way you have to go. But you say that again, like, correct me if I'm wrong, have Rangers been in 4 of the last 5 senior football semis?
Haven't got in front of
Bagenalstown
me, but
in
you're not far out.
3
So
of the last
22.
5. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah. So yeah. So Rangers played obviously last year. They played Eire Og in the previous 2. 19. Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, you're not too far out because they played Pal in the replay in one of them back in. Yeah.
And I still think there's a great kind of mystique about Rangers in Carlow, and I love it. I think they're brilliant. I think they 5 players could be playing senior football for Carlow. I think Fake Fitzpatrick is one of the top, probably 2 all-round footballers in Carlow. He's phenomenal. Don't think the Carlow football fraternity realise just how good he is. I would say one of the top 2. Offensively and defensively, he's brilliant. Maybe 1 or 2 lads a bit better offensively, but defensively he's brilliant. They've Chris Nolan could be playing county football. Ed Byrne probably could. Donna Murphy wouldn't be far off it. They had Gary, the wing back that got injured against us last year, was on the county football team. And I've lost Ray, the centre back in the hurl. They've savage footballers. And they're obviously, look, I might throw a few euros behind the bar and Boris on Friday night. I'd love them to continue their well-deserved senior hurling championship celebrations. But listen, that's for us. That's a huge game, because, like, if you lose that, like, you're looking to get out of the Group A, and there'll be all sorts of who beats who and head-to-heads and la 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 la, and then you're into, at best, probably a quarter final against probably one of the bookies' favourites. So. It'll be an interesting Sunday.
Yeah, and just to go down through it, because like they seldom are too far. I think with Carlow they tend to get it wrong a little bit. I don't know what that is, because they get Rangers 2-1 outsiders in the hurling final, which was never the case. It was crazy. But as it stands, Eire Og are 6-4 on, Pal 15-8, Rathvilly 11-2, Bagenalstown 8-1, Tinryland 10-1. The thing is, like, it's probably unfortunate in the sense that you're here for the first episode, because I was going to go in next door to John Kenny, Jamie Tomas's brother, and stick a Pal jersey up here behind me, because the slating we got, for just being honest, and apparently writing off Palatine last year was unbelievable. So what I've decided to do for this year is I'm going to tip Pal in every game, and if I'm wrong in every game, that's fine. But at least I won't have them giving out to me, and what do you call it? Having a pop when you're trying to have a pint over Christmas, and you all say that. But anyway, we'll leave that to one side. For now. I think you made some interesting points on Rangers. Yeah, I mean, they're a team that would frustrate me an awful lot, because they frustrate half a Carlow, because you know what's in them. Like, Donna Murphy scored 9 points from midfield from play in the minor final a few years ago. Serious talent. They've got the players. We know that. Like, but just looking at the odds, and I brought Pal up there for a few different reasons. Like, do the bookies know that Pal, I suppose, are down a few at the start? That's what I.
Well, they don't, and I'm actually reasonably au fait with how these things work, for a couple of reasons. And I fully understand it in inter-county football, and it always sort of adds up. At the back of these things is ELO rankings, which there'll be an automated system. I think it's in Dubai, actually, the centre where they do it. What people don't know as well, although the odds do seem different on Boyles and Paddy Power at the moment, they are linked. There's a concept called arbitrage, which I believe a Dublin gambler created in the 90s. Well, it was created about him in the 90s, where he went to different bookies, and when the odds didn't match up, he put money on both teams and different bookies, and he apparently cleaned £250,000 before they worked out what was going on. And the day of the internet, these things are, you look at the first thing is they don't know. Broadly speaking, now every county, if I understand, does have a kind of an expert that gives a bit of lowdown. I do find the disparity between Eire Og, Pal and Radvilli doesn't add up to me.
Mm.
And does that actuarial system do boy know that Radvilli had a man sent off early in the second half of the semi-final last year when they were winning? No.
Do
Does
they
it
know that Chris
know?
Blake and fucking Owen Router in Australia? Like, that's,
Yeah,
you know what
well,
I
look,
mean?
Eire Og obviously had a lot of lads injured last year and
Yeah.
away. They'll probably be stronger this year. A few cracking young lads have come through as well, based on the league. What I would say is, I do still. This isn't being disingenuous to Eire Og. I think it's a great championship because I would have had a fear 2 years ago. I'm not doing much journalism anymore, but obviously wasn't going to write on the county I'm working in. But an article that was kind of popping into my head was, it's a game of numbers. I was looking around championships around Leinster and around the country, and Port Arlington had replaced Port Naas looking like they're going to start dominating. Eire Og had won 4 in a row, and for all the world looked like they might win 20 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a genuine. I remember my first year here, and looking at Eire Og just seems so far ahead of the pack in some regards. And then Radvilli came out and beat them in the county final. Was seen as a surprise, but then they came out and beat them again the following year. So I mean, I put it, if that was inter-county, and say Derry had beaten Dublin 2 years in a row, you wouldn't have Derry at whatever Radvilli are at and Dublin at whatever Eire Og are at. But maybe the 4 in a row, there could be an element of local street knowledge perception and how it goes. It doesn't exist. Inter-county is just actuarial templates. Club of a feeling, there might be a mix of both. I don't know. I personally feel that Eire Og, Radvilli and Pal, I think those 3 games are probably 50-50. And I said it last year early on, and I said it from the day we played Pal in the league. I didn't know who was who. So there's a serious professionalism here. What do you know? Pat O'Flynn, Kilkenny man, brought that Kilkenny professionalism. You can just see it. Because look, I like to think I apply it anywhere I go. In Tinryland, or I suppose you're taking inter-county templates that you've been involved in. I remember, I think the physio was there 2 hours before the game. The selector there an hour and 40 minutes before the game. There's a professionalism there, and there's the quality. A few good young players come through. So I do. I think if I was Radvilli or Pal, I'd be kind of sitting in the long grass.
Well, I
So
tell you
to
something.
speak.
It's interesting you should say that, because I think O'Loughlin are going to get a win in that group.
Well,
I actually think
again,
they might.
O'Loughlin. Now, if I'm not mistaken, we've been in Eire Og's group 2 years in a row, so I haven't seen O'Loughlin play Eire Og in championship. I suspect, Eire Og, they're probably man on man, probably do have the talent above and beyond everybody. If it clicks on a day, it'd be a big ask, I think, for O'Loughlin to pimp Eire Og, because of maybe just a raw man on man around the field.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think.
But I mean, Radvilli, O'Loughlin have run Radvilli close 2 or 3 games in the last couple of championships. Very close. I think they've got 3 of the best footballers in the county in the 2 Bambricks and Aaron Almond. I mean, funny, look, this isn't, again, everyone has their own outlooks on football. Like Aaron Almond and Eric Malloy would be 2 of the first boys I'd have on a Carlow team sheet. I think they're both savage footballers. They're kind of Kieran Kilkenny way more than a Paul Mannion way, maybe. But they just make everything work. So look, obviously Niall Roach there as well. A lot of young lads in there as well, little nippy forward. I see them playing soccer with Vale there. So look, no, I think it would be very naive to write O'Loughlin off. Certainly they've run Radvilli close. I think 2 years, 3 years running.
It was a dead rubber last year with the Drew of Pal. The concern, I would say, probably, which is largely reciprocated, is probably up top. But I mean, who knows? Depending on how the whole thing pans out, like if they were to win a game, it could put them through in theory.
Yeah,
you don't know.
It can be funny. I mean, just again, look, I wrote a quite complex article on the head-to-head thing a few years ago. Probably marginally favourable to it. It is funny because it can end groups before the final game where score difference wouldn't. You had Pal playing O'Loughlin last year, and if it was a score difference group, the group would still have been alive. Pal would have had to have got a draw or a win to top it. O'Loughlin could have got a win to get out of relegation. Ultimately, I suppose the theory behind it is that O'Loughlin couldn't get from 4th to 3rd by beating a team that were already qualified. That's probably ultimately when you break it down. But yeah, 1 win. It was like I said last year. I went down to enjoy the weekend. Ballinabrana, they were the bookies' weakest for longest odds by a long way. I think we were 25 to 1 and 7th. Ballinabrana were 50 to 1 and 8th. And I was going down kind of bonus game. Yeah, we expected to win, but if we lose, it actually doesn't really make a huge deal of difference. Then Eire Og go and draw with Bagelstown. Draws are unlikely in any scenario. And next thing, we're going to play Ballinabrana, knowing that if we lose, we have to beat Eire Og in the next game. So our draw, so it can be funny the way it can run. And I haven't really given thought to who's playing who first or second in that group. So I don't know what way it works out. But it can be bizarre. It can be bizarre how quickly a group can be finished with the head-to-head rule.
Yeah, no, for sure. I have the fixtures here in front of me. So obviously, at the weekend, you have yourselves and Rangers. That's on Sunday. Bindstown and Fenna is on Friday. Your game is 6 o'clock, I think, Steve, isn't it? On Sunday.
We're 6 on Sunday, yeah.
Yeah. So Fenna and Bindstown, I think, is 7:30 on Friday, and there's a double header on Saturday evening. Loughlin and Eire Og is first at 6, and then after that you have Rathvilly and Pal. So that kind of concludes round 1. And the round 2 fixtures: Fenna Rangers, Tinryland Bindstown Gales, Pal O'Loughlin, Eire Og Rathvilly. Round 3: Tinryland Fenna, Bindstown Rangers, Eire Og Pal, Rathvilly O'Loughlin. That's how the whole thing's panning out. I'm actually just going to run through the fixture, Steve, for the weekend for the other grades as well, just because I'm looking at the clock here and a few other things just to say before we finish up. Intermediate this weekend: Kildavin, Donegal and Ballinabrana, Eire Og and Kilbride. The other group has a double header. This kicks off the championship on Thursday night in Netwatch Cullen Park. You have St. Patrick's and Navan up against each other there. And then after, this is an A40 throw-in, which is an interesting one in Dr. Cullen Park. Clonmore and Grange will be in the bed at about 10:30 or 11. It's a straight out of Dr. Cullen. Going across to Junior A. This weekend, you'll have first name teams at home, of course. Loughlin Bridge at home to Tinryland, Fighting Cocks at home to O'Hanrahan's. Pal have home advantage against St. Mullins, and O'Loughlin have home advantage against Ballin. Junior B, Clonmore at home to Ballinabrana, Fenna at home to Ascot, Kildavin Donegal at home to Eire Og, Rathvilly at home to Bindstown Gales. And the Junior C will be talked about in next week's podcast because it's not kicking off until next week. So, yeah, that's the gist in terms of fixtures. I don't know. It's not a usual thing where I'd ask a manager of a club in that competition to have a prediction on the other games. Do you fancy it?
No.
Right,
that's why I don't ask, Kev, because nobody answers.
you want to do it anyway?
No. As I say, as a manager, I won't.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, look, that's probably it from our point of view, Steve. I'll thank you for coming on and giving your version of events and being honest and candid and not shying away from any questions, even ones that came into my mind at the last second, which possibly could be interpreted as loaded, but honest nonetheless.
No,
you know what you're getting from me the whole time. So yeah, that's where we're at with it. I suppose wish you the best of luck with Tinryland. I wish all the clubs the best of luck. You know, stewards, everyone involved, officials that make the whole thing happen. We love our football. There is one thing actually. Electric picnic weekend with fixtures, I believe. Am I right in saying that?
As far as I'm aware, there is, yeah. Now, look, I'll be honest with you, and I'm probably an outlier on this one. Like, if you take a break for the electric picnic, you've got your county champions are going to be going into provinces, if I have my calendar correct. You're going to have county finals will have to be finished on the day, extra time penalties. You'll have your winners going into provincial championships the following week. And I'll be honest, if I have my calendar correct, I haven't looked at this. A lot of people are giving out about, will they not give the electric picnic weekend off? I'll be honest with you, if the philosophy were we'll do that to our junior, intermediate and senior champions so we can go on the lash in Stradbally for a weekend, I would say priorities would be very wrong, being honest with you. So I'm fully supportive of the fact that they're ploughing ahead with the fixtures. I think nearly every club in the county is probably requested to play on the Thursday or Friday. Obviously, they all can't because there's only so many referees and pitches and stewards. But as far as I'm aware, there were requests. But as far as I'm aware, it is going ahead. But I do think it would have been a horrendous footballing decision to what, in my mind, would be extend the county finals to the week before the provincial first round so that lads could go on the lash in the field in Stradbally.
That's interesting. That is interesting because Laois obviously have it as a free weekend. And there was a big conversation around it last year with the quarterfinals. I think
Well, Laois, you see, are seeded. Because if I'm not mistaken, am I right in saying that the 4 semi-finalists from the previous year, that county, don't play a preliminary round in Leinster, so they would have an extra 2 weeks to play with that.
But say the weekend itself, like I get where you're coming back from a Leinster point of view and the scope to move it, then that puts the winners under pressure. But say the weekend as a whole, it does cause conversation. It is the big elephant in the room in Carlow, actually. One of the big elephants in the room at the moment.
The big room.
Last year, like Ballyrowan, I think, let guys up to it and were narrowly beaten from memory, I think, by Port Arlington. And it might have been the only club that let their players go to it. Now, I believe clubs are letting lads go up to it this year. Like, does it, if the fixture is the following week, does it have that much of a bearing at the end of the day? If you work around it?
Well, I'll tell you what I said to my lads. I'll tell you straight. And last year, like, my lads get a form at the start of the year, or before the start of the year, and a lot of questions, and if not, why. One of the things is, are you available to fully commit from, I think last year we said 23 days. I think this year might have been 15 days before championship. There's no if, no, why. And there's a reason for that. And it was explicitly stated that electric picnic wasn't an option in the middle of championship. I just think everyone does too. And if in case you think I came in here to try to do a PR job, I've just come in and told the truth. This wouldn't be, the PR man would be saying, stop, don't say that, don't say that. They're going to say you're the dictator, that you're trying to show you're not. I just think everyone puts too much work in. I was with Raheny when 9 lads went to the picnic. And firstly, you're playing a friendly with half a team on that weekend. 3 of them came back sick and missed the championship. 2 weeks later, they were that sick. And I just think, and as I said to the boys last week, listen, if we end up playing Bagnallstown on the Friday, which I think I think a request is being put in, but along with the rest of the county, I'm not at that stage. If we played on the Friday, we're not going to train the weekend anyway, because we'll have played Sunday and Friday if that happens. I'm not at that stage against going to electric picnic, but don't be stupid. Do you know what I mean? Like, if Shane Redmond decides he wants to go to electric picnic, I wouldn't, you know what I mean? Because he's not going to be out falling around the field at 3 o'clock in the morning in the rain. Do you know what I mean? Maybe 1 or 2 other lads, you might have a concern. So look, I think if you got championship Saturday or Sunday, it's obviously madness. But for me, I would have been haunted by what happened with Raheny, where we lost a Dublin under-21 All-Ireland winner. When it was probably one player. We were playing Kilmacud Crokes 2 weeks later and ran them close enough against the odds. And we're probably just that, we lost Brian Howard as well. So you're already without Brian Howard, and then we lost a Dublin under-21. We were missing 7 lads anyway. It was just one too many. My personal view is, as I say, senior football is a lifestyle. I was probably, as a player, people say it's a rite of passage and all this. I maybe outside that loop, because that was never my life. I mean, I went backpacking and missed full seasons traveling across the world with a backpack and whatnot. But for me, once I was in as a player. The notion for me that I'd go as a player that I'd go to a music festival weekend in the middle of championship just wouldn't have entered my head and wouldn't have bothered me. Each to their own. I just think the risk for young lads that mightn't be that responsible when there's a few blue wickets in at 1 o'clock in the morning, and so look. But I do think on the whole, it was a correct football decision not to postpone the weekend. I think it would be a horrendous, like if you're, let's say last year it was Pal. Can you imagine Pal had won that championship and they're going to play Pats the week after? Just, I think it would have been a horrendous football decision, and I think it was a very good decision not to call it off,
Right. Honest as always. I started honest, I finished honest. Steve, thanks a million. The best luck. Thank you.
Thanks, Ev.
The Left Wing Backs coverage of the Carlow Football Championships is brought to you in association with Talbot Fitness Carlow, Connolly's Top Line Bagnallstown, Scats Bouncing Castles, J&J Services Tullow, Seamus Byrne Electrical, your number one for pitch floodlighting installation, Milano's Takeaway Bagnallstown, PFT Travel, the Arboretum Garden Centre, Ray Whelan Limited, Arch Spas and Carlow Electrical Services.